Lindsay, I'm going to ask you to jump in here. Lindsay did a little bit of this, helped us out with an example on data cleaning because this is something everybody's faced with. It's one of the more cumbersome tasks that that we've got to deal with. Usually the analytical work is a small fraction of the time involved in actually, you know, accomplishing a task. More time is spent cleaning the data and preparing it. So Lindsay, why don't you show how you might use a large language model to accomplish some data cleaning?
Yeah, can you see the data that I'm presenting?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in this example, I wanted to see how the model could handle data transformations. So I took some data out of a legacy system where the time in and the time out were stored in what I would call an awkward manner. So instead of a timestamp, it was stored as hour, minute, seconds in three separate columns, both for time in and time out. So I fed my data set to ChatGPT and asked it to create a timestamp out of the three columns into a new column called time in, and to do the same thing with the out times. And ChatGPT's go-to is Python. So it did the work for me. It gave me code that I could run. It also gave me the first few rows of results so that I could test but verify, right? So I could verify. So in looking at this, hour and 12, minute and 54, second and 56, looks like it did pretty well. I don't have Python installed in my computer. So though that was helpful, I asked it again, okay, instead, can you write the steps I would take in G Sheets or Excel to do the same thing? And then it gave me really detailed instructions on how to do the same thing in Excel. What I thought was pretty neat, which I'll show you that I tested the formulas. It went a step further than what I asked. I was very specific to say, I just want the timestamps, but it noticed that in my data set, I had missing values. So it said, hey, if you're handling missing values, be aware that Google Sheets is going to interpret them as 0 by default with the time function. So I thought that was pretty useful for it to go a step further. And then assuming that I might want to format the time, that was the other step further it took and told me how to do that. Now, what else was interesting was I redid this prompt a few times and it didn't always give me those considerations. It's not like you're not always going to get the same thing back, even with very similar prompts. Also, the first time I tried this, I wasn't specific. I think this goes back to that prompt engineering Emmanuel was talking about. I wasn't specific that I wanted a timestamp. I was talking as if I was talking to a person. I said, hey, just combine the hour in, minute in, second in. And I'm not sure what it thought combine meant, but it spit out a bunch of ones and zeros. So that's where that test but verify comes in. Once it got back to me and I saw that, I'm like, okay, I can't use the word combine. So I just tried again. So if I jump over here, I'll show you. Here's where I was testing the formula it gave me. Worked pretty well. And then here's where I just asked it, okay, if you make the columns, ChatGPT, of time in and time out, just give me the data set. Like, I don't want to have to do any work. And it did. It provided a link for me to download the data set with the added columns that I asked for. And they were already formatted pretty well. So can do a lot of cool things.
And those are not real names, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was trying out splitting names and I actually asked it to generate 500 fake names. And when it generated the names, it even used like variants that you would see if people were typing their names into a form. It's like some people adding letters at the end of their name, or some people putting in Mr. at the front end. So I was seeing how it would work with the names, which what's interesting about the names, it told me I realize that you have more than just first and last name in there. I realize that there's extra characters. So how I'm going to approach this is the first string is going to be the first name and everything else is going to be in last name. Do you want me to proceed? So it's kind of cool that it kind of gave me its approach and allowed me to choose. Is that the way I really want to handle all these extra things, or do I need to handle it differently?
So there's a lot here. We could probably do hours of a webinar just on data cleaning, but
Mhm.
just wanted to give you a couple of simple practical things that you might be able to do. If you run Python, ChatGPT is really good at generating scripts.